Hi everyone and welcome to this Super Rugby Week 7 Handicap Projection Show. On the show, I'm going to have a quick look back at Week 6 action from a betting perspective, and then we'll have a look at the 6 Super Rugby Week 7 fixtures. I'll share my handicaps. I've got a couple of other punters that have shared their handicaps, and we'll compare that to the opening quotes of the bookmakers. I have had to work quite hard today to not see anybody else's handicaps, including the bookies, because I've been away for the weekend, so this show coming out slightly later than normal, but I managed to get my handicaps down before I saw any of the others. And yeah, we'll have a look at that and see if any value jumps out. I haven't compared my handicaps to anyone else's yet. Before you do anything else, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you want to catch our rugby videos, go to the bottom of the video, click the subscribe button and whack the bell. You'll get told whenever we upload a video or go live, as we will, of course, on Thursday night at 9 o'clock, a load shedding permitting here in South Africa, where we'll have the handicap, a rugby chat that matters, and I'll be joined by a panel of rugby punters, and we'll have a look at the weekend's action from a betting perspective. By then, we'll have team news and stuff to look at as well. Let's get straight into the action. I want to just go on to last week's results, and going to share my screen. We'll pop across to the SuperSport website and just go through the Blues against the Highlanders. This was what Gavin and myself, who were on the handicap show last week, we both liked the Blues at 15-10. By all accounts, this was a cracking match. I only got to watch parts of it, but the Blues in the end getting up to win by 7 points, breaking a long drought without a victory over a New Zealand side. The Hurricanes against the Stormers, this was our best bet. It went out in the Good for the Game newsletter as well. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't done so already. There is a subscription box on the Good for the Game homepage. And yeah, Hurricanes, well, we got plus 15.5. Stormers at World Sports Betting as our best bet. That handicap did shorten to plus 12.5 by kickoff. But the Stormers comfortably beating the handicap and very nearly winning the game. The Waratahs against Crusaders, well, this handicap shifted from sort of plus 14.5 to plus 10.5. The Waratahs, and the money was spot on. They were too good for the Crusaders. I watched this game in a pub in the Midlands, and yeah, while I thoroughly enjoyed my beers, I didn't enjoy the game much. It was a pretty scrappy affair. Never got involved really from a betting angle. The Sunwolves against the Lions, well, the Lions always looked in control. They seemed a bit stronger in the forwards, and they managed to win this one by 7 points, which is very much in line with the handicap. Then we had the Bulls against the Chiefs. Well, this is the game that cost me on the weekend. I absolutely flew into Bulls over 30.5 points at Sunbet. It was generally 32.5 everywhere else. I thought it was an absolute gift. I was actually attending the wedding at the time, and there was very poor signals. Unfortunately, I really didn't get a lot in the way of updates here, but couldn't believe it when I saw that the Chiefs had won this game 56-20. I was also quite bullish on the handicap, as many punters were. The handicap shifting from 4.5 to 7.5 points in the week, and the bookmakers no doubt cleaned up in this one. The Sharks up against the Rebels. Well, I did fancy the Sharks here on the handicap, but quite small at about the 6.5 level. I never got involved, though, in the end, and the Sharks managed to run out 28-14 winners, with most of those points coming in the first half. Let's go across now to the Good for the Game forum thread, where Coyle was kind enough to start the thread earlier today, and he's put his handicaps in here in the middle of the fixtures. He's shared that. I've just put some brackets up here. I'm going to put mine in brackets, and then we got a rugby punter on Twitter who shared his handicaps with me as well. We'll have a look at those, and I'll put those to the right of mine. So he's gone Hurricanes versus the Crusaders. He's gone a plus 2.5 the home team, the Hurricanes. Well, I wasn't too far away from him here. I made the Crusaders slightly bigger favourites at plus 5.5. And interestingly, Rugby Punter, who I don't know too much about on Twitter, he's gone a plus 8.5. So he's looking to get into a bit of handicapping as well. This next game, very interesting. I can see already, because we've got the Waratahs minus 35.5 for Coyle. Well, I looked at this. I wrestled with it for a couple of minutes. I don't spend too long on these. And I went 15.5, which I suspect is going to be too low. And we had minus 18.5 coming through on Twitter. There's a big difference there between Coyle and myself. I'll be very surprised if it is close to 35.5, though, because the Sunwolves are certainly an improved side. And let's not forget the Waratahs only beat them by a point when they played them over, I think, in Tokyo. The Blues minus 3.5 against the Stormers. Interesting, this one, Coyle, because I actually made the Blues bigger favourites here. I've got them minus 9.5 against the Stormers. The Stormers did, of course, push the Hurricanes nice and close. And on Twitter, we got the minus 10.5 coming in. The Reds minus 4.5 against the Rebels. Yeah, this one, these Aussie derbies are generally fairly easy to cap. I've gone minus 5.5. So Coyle and I are quite close here. And I see minus 2.5 coming in on Twitter. We will pop onto the World Sports Betting website in a second and see what their quotes are. I'm not sure if they're opening quotes because there may well have been some early money, but we can see if there's any obvious value jumping out for us there. The Sharks minus 5.5 against the Bulls, and Coyle and I are very close on this one. I thought minus 4.5. And on Twitter, we've got minus 5.5 as well. So all three of us are aligned there. I'll be surprised if the bookies differ too much from us there. This is interesting. Haguares plus 4.5 says Coyle. I've gone plus 2.5, the Haguares. And on Twitter, Rugby Punter's gone plus 6.5. So it's a fair difference there. So those are the handicaps, and I'll be posting this on the Good for the Game forum thread. If you go to the Good for the Game website, you go onto the home page, and you can look for the Good for the Game forum and join in the conversation. We like to talk sports betting all throughout the week. But before I post it, let's pop on now to World Sports Betting, and we'll compare their handicaps to what we've seen here. They've got all the games priced up, just to skim down and show you that they do have tomorrow night's Varsity Cup matches priced up as well. We'll be having starting a thread for that on the Good for the Game forum, so we'll be looking at that separately. Hurricanes against the Crusaders. Let's pop on and have a look. They've gone plus 3.5 Hurricanes. So if I'm going to compare that, it's pretty much in between Coils and myself. The 8.5 might be a little bit out on this one. But if anything, I'd be leaning towards the Crusaders on the minus. I can't see them putting in a disappointing performance like they did last week. Let's go to the next game then. It's the Waratahs up against the Sunwolves. This one I'm interested in. 26.5 points. And you'll remember here that we had the big differences of opinion. We had Coyle with 35.5 and me with 15.5. So they've come in almost between us there. So Coyle would no doubt be having a look at that minus 26.5, but I've got to be saying, looking at the plus 26.5, Sunwolves would probably be my early play, although the Sunwolves are not really a side that I like to get too involved in early doors. So I'll wait and see team selection on that later in the week. The Blues up against the Stormers. Here we've got Blues minus 4.5 points. Brendan went 3.5. I went 9.5. So it looks like Coyle is going to be closer on this one than me. I may be overestimating the Blues. Of course, what that could mean is that I might be having yet another strike on the Blues. For those who did watch the handicap show last week, I did tip as one of my bets the Blues and the Reds double, and that worked out at just over 5-1. And both of those arriving, with the Reds in particular impressive, beating the Brumbies. And I just realizing I didn't actually cover that game in the review, but they actually started narrow underdogs there, and they won that game quite comfortably in the end. Let's pop over to the next game then on the World Sports Betting website. We've done Blues Stormers and Reds Rebels. I'm expecting this to be fairly close to what we came out with. 2.5. So we had 4.5, 5.5, and 2.5. So Rugby Punter on Twitter, he's in exact agreement here with World Sports Betting. Not a lot of early value. If anything, perhaps I would be suggesting that the Rebels plus might, the Reds minus might be the way to go, given that I came in at 5.5 points. But nothing really jumping out. The Sunwolves game really looking like the one that's going to have perhaps quite a bit of early punter interest. The Sharks against the Bulls, 4.5, as expected, very much aligned here with what we thought. This was a fairly comfortable and easy game to handicap. Of course, that means it's a harder game to make money on. The Haguares plus 4.5 against the Chiefs. And let's have a look what WSB have done here. 15-10, the Haguares outright. 4.5. So we can see Coyle was spot on there with a 4.5. And he was in between the Rugby Punter and myself, who a little bit either side. So not a lot of obvious value jumping out for me in the early stages. So it could be the sort of week where we want to wait and see what happens. It is going to be interesting to watch that Sunwolves line. Is it going to shift from the sort of 26.5 points currently, either in favor of Coyle there at 35.5, or as I suspect, it might come in a little bit and perhaps start in the early 20s. I just thought I'd share my Super Brew pool because I had quite a good week on Super Brew. This is my pay-to-play pool. We got 55 people have all paid 500 Rand. Mentioning this because we're definitely going to do a big one for the World Cup. So make sure you're in touch with me if you want to join us there. All money does get paid back as prizes. Our first prize in this particular pool is, I think, somewhere around 13,500 Rand. So a nice one to play for. But what particularly impresses me is the move of a certain Falcon. Yes, that's me. 18 points up the leaderboard. A pretty decent week. The only games I got wrong were the Crusaders and the Bulls. And the Reds and Blues certainly helping me there to climb the leaderboard. That's it then as far as the handicap projection show goes. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday night, 8:30, GG Gaming Gone Mad, and then, of course, at 9 o'clock with the handicap. Stay close to the Good for the Game forum. Let's see what the other guys think about the handicaps. And if you enjoy a bit of Varsity Cup rugby, well, join us on the forum for that tomorrow as well. Thanks for watching, and look forward to a big build-up to the weekend's punting.